Going to go to workshop 9 and working constraints. If you're still in your activity network view, click on the Gantt chart icon, and it will bring you back to the table and Gantt chart view. Now what we're going to do is actually add constraints to the schedule. A lot of companies don't like using constraints in their schedule, mainly because it's believed that it sometimes messes with the float calculation. So one thing you can do is actually, rather than use a constraint, add a contingency activity, which we'll do a couple steps from now. Management has provided further input to your schedule, as the client has said that they require the submission on or before January 27, 2016. You want to make sure to be in your activity window and observe the calculated finish and the critical path of the project before applying any constraints. So again, if you take a look, you can see that only these three activities aren't within the critical path, as well as everything is. Even though this project needs to be submitted by the 27th, the main reason that the critical path is showing currently, it's the project's belief is that the project is ending January 21st, because we haven't told it what day it's supposed to end. So it's just taking this into consideration and moving with that date. So whenever it pushes forward, it will just create a critical path based on that finish date. So now what we're going to do is display the columns as per the picture below. So we want to make sure the columns is just like this. So I'm going to right click, go into my columns, take away predecessors and successors, as well as the calendar. Um, Again, you can use the arrows to move things to the side. The double arrows moves the entire list to the side, so be careful with that. And you can use the arrows right here to move things up and down, or you can just double click to move things over. You can also click and drag. Now I'm going to show the original duration, start, finish, total float, and we want to show the finish, the free float. So I'm going to go into my durations list, take a look at the free float, and drag it to the bottom. Click OK, and we have everything set. Widen it as much as it should. Now what we're gonna do here is go back up. The client has said that they require the submission on there, so we're gonna apply a finish on or before constraint and assign a constraint date of January 27, 2016, 4 p.m. Again, remember this time is very important. You might not be working with a schedule that has time frames in it, but when you do so, you want to actually pay attention to detail and make sure that everything is as organized as possible. So we're going to go to the bid document submitted activity, make sure it's checked, it's clicked on. We're going to go to constraints. There are several types of constraint. With this being the finished milestones, all the constraints here pertain to finishes. So we have as late as possible, finish on, which is a hard constraint, finish on or after, or on or before. Those are soft constraints, and the mandatory finish is a hard constraint. Now the difference between both, a hard constraint is being specific, and we will see how that affects the schedule, whereas a soft constraint doesn't really make big effect to the schedule. So right now we're going to put a soft constraint, finish on or before. You want to show January 27th. Okay. And then after doing so, schedule, pressing F9. You can see there's no changes to our critical path. It's remaining the same, right? So now what we're going to do is remove it. So go click on it and select none, and then go to your projects window. And what I want you to do is go to your dates tab. Again, if you're not clicking on the project, you won't be able to make any changes below. So you want to make sure to click on the specific project you're working on. What we're going to do is create a must finish by and select January 27th. This is a hard constraint. So I'm going to go back to my activities window. You can click on the icon or the tab, reschedule. And right now you can see that we don't have a critical path in the schedule, mainly because it's taking this into consideration that it's supposed to finish on the 27th. And you can see the float that has been created. We pretty much have a total float of 4 days, meaning that we have 4 days to kind of screw up on this project, whereas each activity has their own float before it's going to mess up the finish date. So keep that in mind. This one is 6. Once we use up that 6 days, it becomes part of the critical path to the schedule. You minimize that. Now, after doing so, you're going to go back to your project window. Make sure this is clicked on and delete it. We're going to go back to your activity window and reschedule. And our critical path return. Now, after doing so, what we're going to do now is go back and apply that finish on or before constraint to the bid document submitted activity. Select January 27th, make sure it's 4 p.m. And schedule. Now, it says due to the proximity to Christmas, management has requested that you delay the obtain quotes from suppliers until first thing in the new year, January 4th, 2016. Consensus is that a better response and sharper prices will be obtained after the Christmas rush. So this is an example of something that can happen, just a random act. This can be a risk that comes from nowhere. So you want to keep that in mind. This is where a constraint comes in handy. So right now we want to make sure that obtain quotes from suppliers is shown on start date of January 4th, 2016. Like I said earlier, you can make use of a constraint to push it out, or rather than use a constraint, you can use a contingency activity. So what I'm going to do is just create an activity by adding, right click and add, or you can use the add button or use the insert button on your keypad. And I'm just going to call it contingency. We can call it delay. Now, what I'm going to do is find out, okay, what's the predecessor to obtain quotes from suppliers? That's OZ 1030. So I'm going to make 1030 the predecessor to this contingency and make the contingency the predecessor to obtain quotes from suppliers, right? I'm going to right click, make columns. Oh, I mean to do that. Right click, select link activities and reschedule. And now you can see the contingency is the driver for this obtain quotes from suppliers. Now we do have it being arranged by the activity ID in an ascending order. That's why the contingency is still below, even though the dates is different. Now there's other ways you can sort it by, which we'll discuss later. So we're going to try to push this out to the 4th. I believe all I need is one more day here. So I'm going to reschedule again. And now we're showing the 4th, and you can see that we're showing a finish date of January 29th with negative floats showing. Also, now that we have negative floats showing, it's mainly because of that constraint that we'll put here to finish on or before January 27th. So it's recognizing that and showing that we're late in our project. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this. And reschedule. We're back to where we started. One thing I'm going to do now is actually go to obtain quotes from suppliers and actually apply a start on or after constraint of January 4th, 8 a.m. and schedule. And we have the same results that we had previously. Now you're going to go to your notebook tab in the activities window. So you're going to go to the notebook tab and make sure obtain quotes from suppliers is selected. Whenever things like this occur, you want to make sure to keep note of it, just in case someone else might be working in your schedule. You may be on vacation, or you may be transitioning off the project, and whoever is the backup or taking over your schedule, you want to make sure that they have good information to be able to continue with where you stopped at. So we're going to enter a note based on number 12 uh, under the constraints and add this note to it. So how to do so: on your notebook tab, after clicking on that, you're going to click add and select the notebook topic pertaining to what it is you want to input. In this case, we're going to use constraints and close out of it. I will show you later on how to create topics as well if you want to. So you're going to click modify, and then that's how you can add your specific note in here. This is 8.3. In other versions, you just may be able to type it in. But you select modify and add your note in there and select OK. And then after doing so, we're going to open the group and sort form by right clicking and go into group and sort, or you can click on the group and sort icon up top. You can also click on the drop down, group and sort, or I believe you can use view, group and sort as well. So again, just a lot of options on how to get to the same place. So we're gonna go to group and sort. Just make sure you get familiar with it and you use your preference. And in the group and sort window, what you can do here is the display options, which shows the totals up top. If I apply, you can see that they go away. So we want to show that though, because it automatically calculates the durations between everything, the start and finish for everything, as well as what's the float within that entire WBS or the entire project. And then you can sort by extra adding other things to it. So we're using ID right now. You can add and also sort by start date or something else specific, some of the column that you have open. You can add additionals as much as you want. So we're going to cancel out. And then for this, we're going to make use of that shortly. So we want to group by clicking in here and selecting total float. Now, the reason we're doing this is because we see that we're behind our project by 2 days. So we have -2 float, total float. So we're going to try to group everything out and see where the float falls in. So I click OK, and you can see that we have this group of 4, this group of 6, and this group of 2s, -2s. In doing so, we know that this is where we can make some kind of change to the project. So right now we'll have to find a way to lose 2 days from this project. And you can bring this up to your PM, engineer, again, planner, buyer, whoever is working in that specific activity, and ask, how can we do so? Where is it that we can lose 2 days in here? Now, one thing you're going to do is sort by duration rather than ID. So we're going to sort by duration, but you want to click it again so that it's descending from the largest number to the bottom. So you're going to try to find out which ones have the longest duration, and this is what we can probably actually shorten durations on. So after review, it is agreed that 2 days may be deducted from the review bid document activity. So we're going to change the duration of this activity to 2 days. So review bid document, we're going to change that to 2 days. And then now what we're going to do is reschedule. After doing so, you can see that we're back to January 27th, and we have 0 days float, meaning everything needs to go, right on plan. And then we're going to organize by WBS. So you're going to right click, go back to your group and sort, or use any of the other options and group by WBS. Click OK. And after doing so, you're going to sort by your activity ID in an ascending order. Now, if you take a notice here, these two that we put constraints have an asterisk in it, and obtain quotes from suppliers. That is how you will know an activity actually has a constraint in it.